Hello, Alan Weaver here. In our last video, we looked at the process for writing your rough draft. In this video, we'll look at the next phase after your rough draft, the edits. Are you ready? Let's go. So you've written your rough draft. Now it's time to start the next phase of preparing your manuscript for publication, the editing process. The majority of my book manuscripts go through 5 to 7 full revisions. First, I write the rough draft, then I read through it to tighten up sentence structure, phraseology, etc. One thing I like to do as a sort of challenge is go through the manuscript and see if I can say what I want to say in fewer words. For example, if I have a paragraph that's 7 sentences long, can I be more concise with my wording and get it down to 6 sentences? If so, how about 5? Okay, how about 4? Doing this exercise helps make the writing stronger, and it highlights the fact that writing with an overabundance of words should be done purposefully for a desired effect. So going through this process gives me my first draft. Then I ask a trusted family member or close friend to read the first draft and provide feedback. I usually don't give any specific directions, just read it and tell me what you think. The turnaround time depends on their schedule, but I'll usually ask if they can provide feedback within 2 to 4 weeks. Once they're done, I'll ask, what did you like? What didn't you like? Or what didn't you understand? Or how was the pacing? Did the story flow? Did you find any plot holes? Based on their feedback, I'll make revisions where necessary. This gives me my second draft. It's here that I send the manuscript to an editor who usually returns it with a lot of red ink all over. Now, this used to bother me at first, but it doesn't anymore. It's just part of the process, and it's the reason why you work with a professional editor. Especially since we tend to autocorrect in our head what we read on paper or the screen because we know what the sentence should say. If we didn't have another person reading our manuscript, we would leave in quite a few mistakes. Sometimes I have one editor, other times I have 2. It's usually based on their availability. Either way, the manuscript gets at least 2 editor revisions. The editor's first read is usually to make sure the story and dialogue flows, makes sense, and has no glaring issues. The editor's second read is for grammar, punctuation, spelling, word tense, etc. Now, I'm very grateful for the editing process because I have blind spots when it comes to punctuation. So it's good as a writer to know what your blind spots are so you can have an editor work with you to fix those issues. The turnaround time for a professional editor depends on their other projects and the level of your writing. The more work they have to do to fix what you've written, the longer it will take. This is why I spend time working through the first and second drafts to hopefully minimize the time the editor will need. Either way, plan for the editor to have your manuscript for at least 2 to 3 months. If you're under a tight deadline, you can get it back sooner, but it will cost you more money if the editor is really busy. Once I have the edits back, I've read through them and I've made the revisions. This usually brings me to draft 3 for story and draft 4 for the grammatical revisions. By draft 4, the manuscript is getting very close to completion. I will then read it through again, this time out loud. The benefit of doing this is that the manuscript has been out of my hands for 1 to 3 months, so I can come back to it with fresh eyes and ears. And reading out loud provides a different perspective on what's written. Sometimes something that looks good on paper may sound awkward when read out loud. If it does, then I make changes. Some dialogue or scenes may also get massaged, tweaked, or removed altogether. New scenes or dialogue may be added. This round gives me my 5th draft. Once I have the 5th draft, I consider the manuscript to be complete. However, as the manuscript goes through the book formatting and layout process, I have been known to make more revisions, which brings me to a 6th draft. A 7th draft may happen after I submit the formatted manuscript for publishing and the proof copy of the finished book arrives. As I read through it, I may find some minor errors or decide to massage the text even more, to add or subtract scenes, descriptions, or dialogue in order to make the layout of the book flow better. By this point, it is good to determine when the book is done. You don't want to edit on and on forever. If you do, you will never get your book published. On the other hand, you don't want to take your rough draft and have it published either. There's nothing worse than a published book full of typographical errors and other issues. This makes you, as the author, look unprofessional. I once had another author give me their published book. As I read it, there were glaring typos on every other page. I told them about it and they got mad at me for pointing out the problem. They said, "What matters most is the information, not the spelling." But that is just a cop-out. If you really care about your book, your message, and your readers, take the time to do the edit phase right. Having a slew of typos and grammatical issues will distract the reader from the message you are trying to convey. You want your manuscript to be the best it can be right now. And once it's published, a year or two down the line, if you decide to make major additions or correct minor issues, then you can always publish an updated or revised edition of your book. It happens all the time in the book publishing industry, even by famous authors. And I have done an updated version of 2 of my books. So as you can see, the writing and editing process is both structured yet fluid. Now it's time for you to tackle those edits. In our next video, we'll look at the layout and formatting process for your manuscript. If you found this video helpful, click the like button and subscribe to this channel. If you know someone who is interested in writing a book, send them this link. And I would love to hear from you, so leave a comment below. Remember, your book won't write itself. Start writing today, and I'll see you in the writer studio.